In this video, we revisit the final four to crown the true best diner in New Jersey. These diners have a tough act to follow themselves. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Elyse Explosion, and this is the Jersey Diner Challenge. Back in January, my husband proposed that we attempt to find the best diner in the entire state of New Jersey. With over 500 in the state, we knew we had to narrow it down some, based on a combination of local repute, online review scores, Guy Fieri appearances, and word of mouth. After narrowing it down to 21 diners, one from each county, we were left with 4 individual champions, one from each region.
Representing North Jersey, it's Morris County's Pompton Queen Diner. Representing Central Jersey, it's Union County's Johnny Prince's famous Bayway Diner. Representing the Jersey Shore, it's Cape May County's Dinos Seaville Diner. And finally, representing South Jersey, it's Cumberland County's Maurice River Diner.
To make things a little more interesting, we decided that we needed to change up the grading a little bit. For starters, food will now be weighted out of 10 points versus the original 5. In addition, we will now be getting a shared starter or appetizer to add to the bonus. And most importantly, my sister, the legendary behind-the-scenes Karen, will now be joining us to grade on a very important diner staple, the humble cheeseburger. Since this was going to cover quite a bit of distance, we decided to split it up into 2 days with 2 diners each. First up were the south of the Driscoll offerings, starting with the Maurice River Diner. It was yet again a lovely sunny day as we made the nearly 2-hour trip down to Port Elizabeth. As we pulled up to the diner, it offered us a view that we totally missed out on during our last visit. The first thing we noticed is that the window art had been changed out since our last trip, swapping from wintry scenes to a lovely set of spring flowers. The diner was super busy for a Saturday afternoon, and it turns out they were hosting a handful of birthday parties in the banquet room. We were seated right away with the hum of women's soccer in the background on the television. For a starter, we ordered the macaroni and cheese bites. I ordered the Nutella French toast with sausage, Michael ordered the cordon bleu panini with chips, and Karen ordered a plain cheeseburger with fries. For dessert, we opted for the Moose Mouse. The mac and cheese bites were very clearly made in-house, which was a big plus, but we all decided that the flavor needed a bit more of a punch. Either a sharper cheese or a bit more salt. The marinara served with it was fine, but the busser cleared it from the table before we were all done using it, so that was a little weird. As for entrees, Karen's burger was cooked to temperature and loaded with cheese, but the cheese wasn't fully melted and the fries were a bit cold. The bun was wonderful though, nice and sturdy. Michael was a bit disappointed that these were not homemade potato chips, but rather a bag of Lay's with his panini, which we decided was a very clever riff on a cordon bleu using blue cheese. The ham was good and the chicken was flavorful, but the panini itself was a little underpressed and not very toasty.
It's really good. Nice.
My French toast had a good flavor with toasted walnuts on top and juicy sausage, but was ultimately kind of dry.
I'm gonna need you to film that. Oh shit, damn Karen.
Get as much of everything as you can.
Yeah, I hope that's not butter.
Oh, well, yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, they're not really take
It's not Heinz ketchup.
it's the regular rice, like the
Pretty good.
Pretty good?
Pretty good.
The Moose Mouse was nice and chocolatey, tasty enough, but paled in comparison to some of the other desserts we'd had. Final score. Food, 7.5 out of 10. Ambiance, 4.5 out of 5. Cost, 4 out of 5. Bonus, 4 out of 5, for a total score of 20 out of 25. After our brunch, we decided to take another sunny day detour, this time to the very tip of New Jersey, Sunset Beach in Cape May. Sunset Beach is not a swimming beach, not really. There are a few touristy shops, but most important to me is the view of the wreck of the SS Atlantis. The SS Atlantis was one of 12 concrete ships built during World War I as part of the Emergency Fleet Corporation, reportedly used either to transport coal or servicemen, and I can't find a clear answer. After its retirement, it was brought to Cape May to serve as a ferry between it and Delaware, something the Cape May Lewes Ferry does currently. However, tragedy struck in June of 1926 when a storm hit, unmooring the ship from its dock and running it aground. The The ship was not able to be refloated, and so the wreck has stayed in place since then, submerging further and further into the ocean as the years roll on. The wreck at one time had a spray-painted billboard reminding people to get boat insurance on the side, but is now nothing more than a monument to time. It is fascinating and a true piece of weird New Jersey history. After sitting and watching the surf a bit, we also drove over to see the Cape May Lighthouse, amusingly located in Lower Township. Fun New Jersey fact! In Cape May County, there is an Upper Township, a Middle Township, and a Lower Township. Guess what order they lay in geographically? I digress. I love lighthouses, and Cape May has a special place in my heart for being the location where we completed the Lighthouse Challenge a few years back. But we had taken enough time and we were starting to get hungry again, so off we went, dressed to kill, back at Dinos Dinos Seaville Diner, our Jersey Shore winner. I have to admit, Dinos is much bigger than we originally suspected. Upon our last visit, I had only barely glanced at the dining room, which actually stretches all the way back and seats a goodly amount of additional guests. We ended up seated in the very back corner this time around. First things first, our server was absolutely wonderful. A true slice of Jersey herself, and she absolutely made the meal 1,000 times better. This side of the dining room was a little more muted than the other and felt more like a banquet hall than a diner. It wasn't quite as appealing, which was kind of a letdown. However, the real stars were just getting ready, the food. Karen ordered the standard cheeseburger and fries. Michael's breakfast was the highly advertised red velvet waffle with pork roll, and I ordered a chicken burger with bacon and blue cheese with a side of fries. For our starter, we opted for a classic, mozzarella sticks. First up were the mozzarella sticks, which honestly blew my expectations out of the water. Look at this cheese pull! Extraordinary. They were battered and fried, served hot, and the pièce de résistance, the marinara. I'm not a huge tomato sauce kind of person, but this was so cheesy and delicious, it really made the flavors pop. We all loved these. Karen's burger was cooked perfectly to temperature with a much better cheese melt. The patty was fresh, juicy, and hot, not mushy and greasy. The bun was a nice sweet brioche with a great texture. Fries were overall good. Michael's waffle was served with dollops of cream cheese frosting, which I found particularly appealing, though of course this was not my meal, but his.
Oh, God, it looks like soft serve ice cream.
Thank you so much. Margo, do you want pickles with your waffle?
No, that's all right. It's really good.
The flavors were good. The waffle was crispy and tasty, though unfortunately the edges were slightly over to slightly burnt, which did the whole dish a disservice. I guess the batter itself being a dark red made it a little easier to mask the doneness. My chicken burger stood out to me as the menu described the meat as ground in-house, which was definitely appealing. The flavor combination was great. There was a ton of blue cheese and bacon, and it worked really well with the ground chicken. The patty was a little dry, but between the cheese and mayonnaise, it really evened out. For dessert, our server recommended the cannoli pie, and you didn't have to twist my arm for this one. I love cannoli, and this was a great combination, but very heavy and very dense. I'm glad we saved it for later in the day because there would have been no way I could have eaten this immediately after my meal. Final score. Food, 8.5 out of 10. Ambiance, 3.5 out of 5. Cost, 4 out of 5. Bonus, 4.5 out of 5 for a total score of 20.5 out of 25. We returned home to rest and recuperate. 2 diners down, 2 to go. The end is near. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel. But is it the end or is it an oncoming train? Only time will tell.
1 week later.
The weather was truly against us on the final day of our diner tour. Heavy rains and the threat of flooding was in the air and ground. There was a lot of rain, but off we went to our first stop of the day, the Central Jersey winner, Johnny Prince's famous Bayway Diner. The diner was packed when we arrived, but thankfully a handful of seats cleared out shortly after we got in. If the weather had been better, I'd planned to possibly eat at the picnic tables outside, but that wasn't plausible this go-around. I also lose some personal points here, as I had neglected to mention to Karen how cramped it would be, and it was not particularly accessible. This is not a place you would go as a large group, or with people that have mobility issues, or small children. This is definitely a space intended for blue-collar workers at the local factories and facilities. One of the really nice things, though, is the closeness you feel eating here. Your neighbors are right next to you. The guy sitting next to me was a roofer, and the guy down the counter was driving through from New Hampshire down to Maryland, going to visit sick relatives, and stopping at as many Triple D locations as he could along the way. The same lovely waitress was there from our first visit, and most importantly, Johnny Prince himself. It felt like I had known these people my whole life, talking shit and just hanging out like we were old friends. It is an extremely good vibe, and one that is not easily replicated. Since the menu's a little limited, our starter this time around was a bowl of Italian wedding soup for Michael. Karen again fulfilled her role as cheeseburger judge with a separate side of fries. Michael got the blackjack chicken sandwich, and I got the belly buster breakfast sandwich. The owner told Michael right off the bat that the blackjack was his favorite item on the menu, which was a breaded cutlet with a pile of bacon, pepper jack cheese, and chipotle ranch. The cutlet was thin and juicy, extremely tasty on great bread. Michael agreed, this is a truly top-tier sandwich. The soup was also pretty good, with lots of tiny meatballs, and very tasty. The Belly Buster was a formidable breakfast sandwich. Pork roll, bacon, sausage, ham, American cheese, hash browns, and egg whites, all on an incredible Italian bread. This was so intimidating, but so delicious. The most impressive, though, was Karen's burger. She said straight up that this was a perfect 10. She would not change a single thing about it. It was cooked a perfect medium well with a good amount of cheese and a beautiful seeded Kaiser roll. The fries were crinkle cut and poured straight out of the fry basket onto a plate and served to us. The meal at the Bayway is truly impressive with a genuinely reasonable price point. For dessert, we shared a slice of chocolate chip pound cake, which was lovely, but in my opinion, not as good as the iced lemon pound cake we had the last time. Its menu and hours are limited, but there is genuinely nothing like the Bayway. It's famous for a reason. Final score. Food, 9.5 out of 10. Ambiance, 3 out of 5. Cost, 5 out of 5. Bonus, 4 out of 5, for a final score of 21.5 out of 25. On the road, we decided that our final roadside stop should be none other than a mall, mostly because it was raining. And so we ended up at one that I hadn't been to since my college years, the Rockaway Town Square Mall in Rockaway, New Jersey. The mall was totally different from the last time I'd visited. This incredible mural really stood out, and it was light and bright and busy. The first thing I did was try out this extremely weird cotton candy vending machine, which sorta made the design that I'd wanted. Either way, it was tasty and a nice little reprieve. We also found a couple of true gachapon machines, which threw me off guard. I got a very cute little Anya from Spy Family, and Michael ended up getting a little guy from My Hero Academia. Can you tell I don't watch that show? Having thoroughly dried off, we headed back out in the elements to our final stop, the winner of our North Division, the Pompton Queen Diner. This, along with the Bayway, were our highest scoring diners of the first round, both getting a 17.5 out of 20. The Bayway had already made an extremely strong showing, but would the Pompton Queen be able to keep up? The short answer is yes. The long answer is hell yes. We were seated in the same area we were last time, but this time got a pretty close look at the paintings on the walls. To my surprise, they were all original artworks created specifically for the Pompton Queen. Additionally, as this was the final stop on our Whirlwind Diner tour, we decided to splurge and get milkshakes, which will not be factored into grading. They were, however, delicious. For our starter, we opted for the spinach and artichoke dip with tortilla chips. Karen ordered her final cheeseburger of the tour, Michael ordered chicken and waffles with peppercorn gravy, and I decided to go with a personal favorite, a French dip with queen chips. The spinach and artichoke dip started us off on an extremely high note. It was a very generous portion, enough for all three of us to share. With tons of cheese, and perhaps most importantly, house-made tortilla chips fresh out of the fryer. What really pushed it over the edge, though, was the fact that it was so good, it inspired Karen and I to want to try and make it for ourselves to try and replicate it. Wow. Karen's cheeseburger, while not quite as good as the Bayway's, was still an extremely high-quality offering. The menu said that they grind their own meat, which was evident in how fresh the patty was. It was cooked to more of a true medium rather than a medium well, but the sear lines from being cooked on a grill were noticeable. Fries were a little sad, not quite cooked as nicely, but a sleeper hit was the mayo of all things. Karen felt it was a distinctly different brand, possibly Duke's, which we love, but is impossible to find here in New Jersey, and that really took it to a new level. Michael's chicken and waffles were, in fact, chicken tenders, but they were very nice seasoning on the chicken, and the waffle was nice and fluffy, and most importantly, not overcooked. The peppercorn gravy was great to dip, but it was also very nice to have the option of syrup and butter for the waffle versus an all-savory affair. My French dip, well, look at it. This is an ungodly amount of meat on one sandwich. There was a good amount of Swiss cheese as well as a lovely umami to the jus. This sandwich was already amazing, but then the queen chips, house-made potato chips, were great, just thick enough to still have a chew, but were also still crunchy and very flavorful. For dessert, as much as we loved the baklava cheesecake the first time, so much so that I took a slice home for later, we opted for the dulce de leche cake, effectively a tres leches cake with a bit of extra caramel. It was, of course, absolutely delicious, both light and fluffy and dense and sweet at the same time, a truly great combination of flavors and textures, and one I would absolutely eat again if you could pry me away from the baklava cheesecake. Final scores. Food, 9 out of 10. Ambiance, 4.5 out of 5. Cost, 4 out of 5. Bonus, 5 out of 5, for a total score of 22.5 out of 25. As we left the Pompton Queen, it finally started to settle in the massive task we had undertaken, and having reached the end, it definitely felt more than a little bittersweet. This has probably been the most fun way I could think of to beat my seasonal depression, and gave us something fun and exciting to look forward to during the sad and gray winter. Before we reveal the winner, though, let's have some runners-up. These are all diners that didn't make it to the final 4, but we still felt were worth acknowledging. In the We Got Robbed category, I would like to extend a true apology to Warren County's Washington Diner. With a score of 17 out of 20, it would have won nearly every other region, but it was half a point shy of taking out the Pompton Queen. For the diner with the best aesthetics, Atlantic County's Silver Coin Diner. The sheer volume of neon and chrome truly screams diner to me, and the little blueberry mural added a local flair. For the diner with the best dessert, I have to give a nod to Middlesex County's Skylark Diner. That brookie skillet was the only dessert we didn't take to go, which was truly unparalleled. For the diner with the best soup, Somerset County's Time to Eat. Their seafood bisque is a very unique offering and absolutely worth stopping by on a Friday for. And finally, 2 related awards. For the best bang for your buck, there's no competition. Gloucester County's Angelo's Glassboro Diner. For the true budget buster, again, no competition. Hudson County's Tops Diner will set you back a pretty penny, but you'll have some of the best diner food you can get in the state. On that note, drum roll please, here are the final scores. Only 2.5 points separate the first and fourth place winners, so you can see how close this actually was. Maurice River Diner, 20 out of 25. Dinos Seaville Diner, 20.5 out of 25. Bayway Diner, 21.5 out of 25. Pompton Queen Diner, 22.5 out of 25. The winner and the Best Diner in New Jersey award goes to Morris County's own Pompton Queen Diner. Both meals we had there were among the best food we had the whole time, with my crepes being probably my best meal that I had for every diner we visited. The diner presented a diverse range of breakfast, lunch, dinner, and dessert options, something to please even the pickiest palate. And seriously, don't skip on the dessert here. I will be dreaming about that baklava cheesecake for probably the rest of my life. Thank you all for joining us on the Jersey Diner Challenge. I hope to be doing some more videos along this line, some slightly more scripted things going forward, with more Jersey shenanigans and more niche travel. We'll see what happens. I'm Elyse Explosion, and I'll see you next time.